New members of Congress were sworn in today. And as you can see here, members exposed to coronavirus using separate entrance, secure enclosure to vote in speakership election. Yes, you remember that old phrase, those who want the power most should never be allowed to have it. And in a classic example of rules for thee and not for me, many Democratic Congresspeople, those were the people who had to use the separate entrance, something that Democrats have long pushed for. I think we got rid of those signs in, the 1960s? Had to bend and break their own lockdown rules. Now, normally if you're in contact with somebody, you're supposed to isolate for a certain amount of time. I don't know what the current day count is. Is it 12, 18, 10, 78, the end of time? Who fucking knows? Who cares? And especially, you should be taking this virus very seriously because so many of the elected officials in both the Senate and in the House are well over the age of this virus being very deadly to them. At best, like a 2 to 2.5% chance of dropping dead. But yeah, it just goes to show you that in order to secure an election, Democrats will literally go to any lengths that they possibly can. House members who are otherwise supposed to be in quarantine due to exposure to the China virus are reportedly using a separate entrance and a secure enclosure on Sunday to vote in the speakership election. Capitol Hill physician Brian Monahan said the members in question who tested negative for the virus will be permitted to vote in a secure enclosure. Such will ensure continuity of operations of essential functions. Yep, they will make their own rules to follow. They will create their own little spaces in order to put up this veneer of, oh, we're taking this very seriously. But in actuality, they're just trying to cling on to power. And by they, I really just mean Nancy Pelosi, because this is what the speaker's election was all about today. U.S. Representative Rodney Davis from Illinois. Yeah, it's hilarious. Okay, we know that Illinois is pretty much going to be a Democratic stronghold until, well, at least I'm probably dead in the ground. But the only reason that's the fact is because Chicago votes so overwhelmingly, whether they like it or not, Democrat. And you take a look at the rest of the state, and it's red everywhere except for Chicago and its suburbs. And that's also the case in pretty much every other Democratic stronghold. So yeah, like I alluded to there, but this was all in order to get Nancy Pelosi re-elected the Speaker of the House. And yes, she did achieve that, because she had to bend the rules in order to do it, but she did it nonetheless. Yet they have the balls to say that the Republicans in the House and the Senate challenging the vote on Wednesday are unconstitutional and crazy fucking hysterical people. Like, even, I'm not probably going to do a dedicated video on this, but Chuck Todd of Meet the Press, I couldn't think of a less relevant cable news program than Meet the Press, once prestigious apparently. But yeah, Chuck Todd was interviewing Ron Johnson, one of the senators who signed on to Ted Cruz's declaration for audit or contestation. He said, well, if you're going to probe the election, why not probe the moon landing? I know he's just trying to pander to his base, Chuck Todd is. But what that does to the layperson is it tries to attach the election to conspiracy theorists and make it into something that's patently absurd, even though, just a cursory glance at any other website that doesn't have 3 letters in its name will tell you that there's something a little bit fucked up going on. Or you can be as stupid as Meathead there, yeah, saying that, oh, it's treason to challenge. Just his short-term memory is not that good. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, do you guys think for a minute there wouldn't be contestations everywhere? Rightly so. But yeah, celebration. I don't have anything. I don't have any balloons to come down from the ceiling or any streamers. Nancy Pelosi wins another term as Speaker of the House with less than a majority in House. Yes, regardless, she was going to get that victory, whether or not she had to pull sitting members of Congress, or I'm sure if we take a look at the vote there, Al Franken probably cast his vote. A severely weakened House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, won re-election on Sunday with only 216 votes, less than a majority of 218 in the U.S. House of Representatives. There we go. After voting concluded, according to C-SPAN's count, Pelosi had 216 votes, and an emboldened House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy secured 209 votes. Wow. 2 members, both Democrats, voted for somebody else, and 3 members, also Democrats, voted present. Oof, that's tough. I wonder who those people are. Oh, we'll get into that. The fact that Pelosi could not even get a majority of the members of the U.S. House of Representatives to vote for her, since the House has 435 voting members, a majority is 218, is a sign how much weaker she is, since the 2020 congressional election in November saw massive losses for House Democrats. 25 or 28. I forget what the count is. But yeah, it looks like that impeachment really did wonders for your re-election there. But here we'll get into the members who voted present. Abigail Spanberger from Virginia voted present. I kept my promise to vote for new leadership upon my swearing in, but she didn't. She just voted present. And in Congress, I remained consistent in my commitment to ushering in new leadership. Accordingly, I did not vote for Speaker Pelosi. Good for her. Or they. I don't know. Democrats are crazy. But hey, good on her. I would never vote unless we were voting for people to cosplay as a slinky down the front of the steps of U.S. Congress. I would never, ever cast a vote for Nancy Pelosi. Technically, Spanberger actually helped Pelosi secure the speakership by voting present. Yeah, exactly. Didn't vote for anybody else. That lowered the total number of votes Pelosi needed to win, as a candidate needs a majority of those present, voting for a person. Members of Congress know this, and Pelosi did not actually need Spanberger's vote, because she wasted it by just voting, "I'm here, thanks for swearing me in." But that's alright, she released a statement saying that I'm voting for new leadership by just pulling a Barack Obama and just voting present. And Mikey Sherrill from New Jersey and Alyssa Slotkin from Michigan, also voted present, so by default ended up voting for Pelosi. And they apparently were in very, very tough elections, in Michigan, New Jersey, and Virginia. So there is hope in the future for perhaps the midterms. We'll see. The country's changing, and dead voices matter. While Republicans picked up a number of seats from Democrats, they did not secure a majority. Yes, something McCarthy is moving towards recapturing for the GOP in the 2020 midterms. Yes, exactly. But you guys remember the squad, AOC and her other three compatriots. We regrettably know their names. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, and the newest one, Cori Bush, which is a woman of color, by the way, from Missouri. Holy fuck, I find that weird. Oh yeah, and by the way, all 5 voted for Pelosi, so they're really committed to change, guys. But to add a little bit of suspense, Ocasio-Cortez and Cori Bush withheld their votes until after the roll was called, and then met with Pelosi, and then voted for her, after it was just formulaic at that point. Just really making a difference out there, guys. So yeah, like in the first story that we touched on, as you can see here, according to Chad Pergman, who's Fox News' congressional correspondent. Seems like a very important job. But he reported that House Speaker has set up a plexiglass box above the chamber, like something from a hockey rink. Like a fucking penalty box, for the infected or potentially infected Caroline McKee and Tim Ryan, just to vote for Nancy Pelosi from the box. Oh my god. And rightly so, House Republicans mocked her for it, with one aide saying her actions amounted to turning the speakership vote into a super spreader event. And Rodney Davis had a cute quip comparing the plexiglass box to the Pope Mobile. That's how they see themselves, just really far above the people that they're supposed to represent. They don't really care about you. They just care about power. It's the party of fear, to be completely honest. They're telling you that you're supposed to stay home. You're not supposed to see your relatives. Meanwhile, they'll be off jet-setting across the world telling you that... Well, you guys remember the final debate? Joe Biden just repeated himself across the 2 debates there, the presidential debates, that is. He was saying, so many million people are going to die. 250 million people are going to die. I know that was a slip of the tongue, but he kept saying it for weeks on end, so I don't know if he actually believed it or not. He was probably still disappointed that Santa didn't come visit him on the 25th so he could sniff his beard. But one of his very rehearsed lines was another 250,000 people were supposed to die to the coup before the end of the year, at the start of November. Well, the potential incoming president was off, just by a little bit. If you consider a little better than 70% to be a little bit off. I understand that picture right up there at the top is a screenshot, but he just doesn't look comfortable ever. He's very, very old, and you should just let him retire instead of just rigging him into the office there so your cabal of deep staters can run the country into the ground and do whatever it is you plan on doing. I'm sure if you just panned around, you'd probably be able to see Kamala Harris's hand up his ass, just telling him what to say to add legitimacy to her upcoming presidency. I hope not, but let's be real. But yeah, like the headline says, only 72,000 people died of COVID-related things. I don't even know what the proper terminology is for it anymore. It just keeps changing by the day. It's like how the congressman-elect from Louisiana passed away. They said it was linked to COVID, but he tested positive for COVID and had a heart attack and died. I'm sure that was probably counted as a COVID death. At least it was originally reported as a COVID death. So kind of like how that guy in Florida who died in a motorcycle accident tested positive for COVID, and it was recorded as a COVID death. Just to let you know that this entire pandemic's not necessarily on the level, but you guys already know that. Yeah, this is how we'll finish it off here. President-elect Joe Biden spiked coronavirus hysteria earlier this month, all the way back in November, actually. This was from New Year's Eve, this article. Warning Americans that the nation would suffer 250,000 additional deaths from the commie cough by the end of the year. Christmas is going to be a lot harder, Biden said during a small business roundtable. What, he couldn't book his flight in time? A lot of your compatriots did. I don't want to scare anybody around here. Whenever somebody prefaces their upcoming statement with a misdirection like that, you know that the rest of their statement is going to be full of total horseshit and fear tactics or misdirection. But whatever it is nothing you'd believe on the face value of it. But understand the facts. Oh, okay. Listen to a 78-year-old, and I think he's turning 79 relatively quickly, year-old man about the facts. Listen. If you were going to take advice from somebody, just in the real world, somebody who looks like Joe Biden, would you take anything that he says at face value? Like, okay, maybe if it's your grandfather, okay, you might listen to what he has to say. But if some old kook coming up on the street saying more people are going to, the same amount of people that have died this entire year are going to die again by the end of the year, would you take him on the merits of what he's saying? That's just why I've been an avid and vocal supporter of term limits. 4 terms in the public life and retire by the time that you're 70, for fuck's sakes. Okay, we would have only got 1 term of Trump, but it'd save us from this sham that would be coming up here at the end of the month. But yeah, here was his entire statement. I don't want to scare anybody here, but understand the facts. We're likely to lose another 250,000 people dead between now and January. You hear me? Yeah, we heard you. It just didn't pan out that way, Pops. But of course, as you can see in the statement there, he added in his little weasel word, we're likely to lose. So he can say, oh, people adhered to the lockdowns over Christmas. That means that they work and people are getting vaccinated. So that's good. And because vaccinations work, we're going to have to implement them going forward. And we're going to have a 100-day lockdown starting January 21st. After I have my little celebration, my little dance with a mask in the fucking ballroom. You know they're going to have a celebration for him on the 20th, on the night of. It's tradition, after all. At that point, the Atlantic's COVID tracker reported nearly 262,000 Americans had succumbed to the virus, making Biden's prediction a near doubling of the nation's 9-month death toll within a 30-day period. That would be impressive and perhaps would be a reason to lock down. But none of the stats ever proved that would be anything highly likely. Like, I don't think an asteroid could wipe out 250,000 people. According to the latest data from the COVID Tracker Project, this would, close out 2020. U.S. death toll stands at nearly 334,000 people, meaning Biden was off by about 178,000, with 72,000 deaths in December. That is a considerable amount looking at the percentages, but at the same time, nowhere near the 250,000 people. But of course, what did the media run with? Oh, Trump's not doing enough. People should be wearing masks all the time. Be scared. Stay at home. Meanwhile, this news broadcast is being taped on location on the beach in Puerto Rico. Like, they don't care about it. Clearly, you could see that with Pelosi's speaker vote. It only matters when it doesn't directly affect them, and when it does, they have provisions in place where, the old people that are in Congress won't necessarily drop dead. I hate all the hypocrisy. Listen, have lockdowns, adhere to them, everybody. Or don't. I would prefer we didn't, because we know that lockdowns don't work and in fact do much more harm than they do actual help. Or just roll forward with the vaccine that's out that's going to take care of pretty much every strain that's out there that we know of. I don't know of one strain that's necessarily not going to take care of or be taken care of by the vaccine. So we can stop with the fear tactics, okay? People aren't dropping dead in the streets. The only thing that's dropping dead in the streets is small businesses. But yeah, enough with the doom reporting. I was going to say I was fear-mongering, but fuck, I was just making fun of these kooky old fucks. So yeah, hopefully we'll cover something a lot more fun in the next video. I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.